War in Iran shows no sign of ending anytime soon, and American elections are coming up. So it feels like the right time to explain the 1979 Iran hostage crisis, which was maybe one of the greatest humiliations in American foreign policy history, and also involved Iran leveraging an upcoming American election to get more power in negotiations. So 1979, the Iranian Revolution happens. Iran's in chaos. There's an interim moderate government. There's the religious leader, Khomeini, who is like not necessarily controlling the government yet. Okay, that's important. Like there's chaos. There's a lot of fluidity in this situation. And America has already withdrawn like thousands of people from Iran. Most Americans have left at the embassy in Tehran, the capital of Iran, where America still has a place. There's only like 100 people left, down from 1,500. And America's desperate to keep this embassy open, okay? Like America has listening posts on the border between Iran and the USSR, the Soviet Union. We're in the middle of the Cold War, so that's like really important to them. And they want like, they had a good negotiation, a good structure with the Shah, who was the overthrown leader. Now he's sick. He needs to get somewhere for medical treatment, and he's been hopping around from different places. America had promised him that after he was overthrown, he could come to the United States. Now they're like, whoa, 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 you can't come now, because the Iranians really don't want that to happen. And the Americans are worried that will like end their ability to negotiate with whatever new government comes about. And so eventually, though, they do let the Shah come to the United States. He's sick, he has cancer. America had a huge foreign policy and intelligence failure in Iran too. They had no idea the revolution was coming. They had no idea the Shah was weak and sick. And they really had no idea who this Khomeini guy was, who was this religious leader who like led the revolution. Now the Iranian revolution was many different people coming together. You had leftists, you had like secularists who wanted a democracy, and then you had the fringe, strong, religious contingent that America didn't really realize at the time was becoming so powerful. And that was led by Khomeini. And that was who would eventually win, in part because of what happened with this Iranian hostage crisis. You've got 100 people left at this embassy. You've got only like 24 Marines to defend them. And then like 100 Iranian soldiers who aren't really like, they're mostly drinking and not caring. Like it's not a situation that's easily defensible, but there's so much chaos in the streets, and they don't really think that the embassy's under threat. Now, people had warned that if you take the Shah in, they're worried about the embassy, and that ended up happening. Students overran the embassy, hundreds of students, and then basically held these people hostage, the diplomats that were left. Now, Khomeini, who is the leader of like the religious sect that wanted an Islamic Republic, the regime that now currently exists as theocracy, he actually didn't want them to do that at first. Like he didn't know that they were doing that. But his son, who was a little bit more radical, I mean, they're both radical, but like there's levels to this, right, guys? He convinced him that like, oh my gosh, no, the people in the street love this. Like it's fighting imperialism with the Shah. Like we're going to use this as leverage, and it will help strengthen your power to make this an Islamic Republic and weaken these moderate factions that are still trying to negotiate with the government. And so people thought that this Iranian hostage crisis wasn't going to last very long, okay? It ended up lasting for over 400 days. And the people who were held hostage were blindfolded. They were beaten. The students and the soldiers who overtook the regime would like hold guns to their heads and play Russian roulette with them. Brutal situation for them. Over time, like some hostages would get released. Some would escape, thanks to this like elaborate plan that was the subject of the movie Argo with Ben Affleck, and the Canadians who like, and the CIA who like convinced the Iranian government that they were secretly like part of a Hollywood crew and they were filming a movie, and then they escaped with like forged passports. But the rest of the hostages wouldn't be free for forever. There was also a fundamental difference in understanding about like what's going on. What do they want? The Iranians decided that they didn't want a negotiation. They didn't want a solution. They didn't need one until the very end. Eventually, economics pressured them, but they dealt that one last final humiliation to Jimmy Carter, and Jimmy Carter would become so unpopular. At first, this would make him more popular. Like people wrap themselves in the flag in moments of crisis like this, and so his approval rating was really low when the Iranian Revolution happened. It bounced up when the hostage crisis first started, and then it kind of like fell dramatically as this hostage crisis just continued going. And this was like the start of the 24-hour news cycle. So like it was like people were covering it every single day. There was like countdown clocks, and they were saying like day 108 of the Iranian hostage crisis, day 401 of the Iranian hostage crisis every day. And so Jimmy Carter would eventually lose in a landslide, and the Iranians would then let all the hostages go minutes after the next president was inaugurated. Not really because of anything he did, but because they just wanted to humiliate Jimmy Carter, because they hated him. They also hated the next president. The Khomeini refers to America as the great Satan. They hate America. And in part that's due because of a lot of these failures in foreign policy and intelligence at this time. Like we didn't send a new ambassador. That was a snub whenever like we were replaced, like whenever the government was replaced. Repeated foreign policy failures. There was a tragic, cataclysmic attempt to military rescue the hostages that resulted in 8 soldiers dying in a plane crash, a helicopter plane crash in the Arabian desert, or in the desert. just terrible foreign policy failure, but also it's a fundamental understanding, like this historical framework provides context for today, that like when you have elections, when you have those elections and your opponent or the counterpart who you need to negotiate with doesn't, you have a lot more pressure than they do. They can withstand pain longer than you can because you might get replaced. And maybe a similar situation today.